Hi, welcome back to the Resistance Revolutionary Party. This is my second video, and the first part of this video will be about liars. In other words, different types of liars. I found a website that spoke about sociopaths, compulsive liars, political cult leaders, and Nazi propagandists. The second part of this video will discuss Stephen Roosevelt's take on the 2016 Republican presidential candidates, followed by David Pakman's take on the typical Trump voter, and lastly, Carl Cannon's 5 Tribes of the American Voter. Sociopaths. A sociopath is typically defined as someone who lies incessantly to get their way and does so with little concern for others. They are often goal-oriented. Lying is their focus. It is done to get one's way. Sociopaths have little regard or respect for the rights and feelings of others. They are often charming and charismatic, but use their talented social skills in manipulative and self-centered ways. Compulsive liars. A compulsive liar is defined as someone who lies out of habit. Lying is their normal and a reflexive way of responding to questions. Compulsive liars bend the truth about everything, large or small. For a compulsive liar, telling the truth is very awkward and uncomfortable, while lying feels right. Compulsive lying is usually thought to develop in early childhood due to being placed in an environment where lying is necessary. For the most part, compulsive liars are not overly manipulative or cunning, unlike sociopaths. Rather, they simply lie out of habit, an automatic response which is hard to break and ultimately takes its toll on a relationship. Political cult leaders. Political cult leader is a term used to describe some groups that are generally considered to be on the political fringe. Although the majority of groups to which the term cult is subscribed, currently it is often used as a pejorative term according to some comparative religious scholastics and is often applied to religious in nature. Some are non-religious and focus either on secular self-improvement or political action and ideology. Political cult members are susceptible to suggestion and will believe almost anything told to them by what they consider a trusted source. In the face of indisputable facts, members can reject the obvious and delude themselves into believing what a casual observer would consider extreme conspiracy theories. Nazi propagandists. The Nazis spoke plainly when it came to lies. In fact, they published their views on them even before they employed them. How is that for confidence? Make the lie big, make it simple, keep saying it, and eventually they will believe it. Adolf Hitler. The size of a lie is a definite factor in causing it to be believed. For the vast masses of the nation are in the depths of the hearts more easily deceived than they are consciously and intentionally bad. The primitive simplicity of their minds renders them a more easy prey to a big lie than a small one. For they themselves often tell little lies, but will be ashamed to tell a big one. Adolf Hitler, Mein Kampf. Stephen Roosevelt's assessment, the 4 main characteristics of the Republican presidential candidates in 2016. And I myself added a 5th characteristic. Okay, the pugilists. The ones who try to prove they are the most right-wing candidate to please the Republican base. Your Ben Carsons, Carly Fiorina, Ted Cruz, and Donald Trump. Right-wingers. The ones who are just as right-wing as the pugilists, but will tone down the crazy talk while campaigning. Rick Perry, Rand Paul, Bobby Jindal, Marco Rubio. Moderates in name only. The ones who are pro-corporatist and have no problem in pandering to the far right. Jeb Bush, Chris Christie, Scott Walker, Lindsey Graham. Religious conservatives. The ones whose only chance is to win the Iowa caucuses and have a billionaire back them. Rick Santorum, Mike Huckabee. The unknowns. The ones who seem to be normal politically but will vote only to further the Republicans' agenda, right or wrong. John Kasich, Jim Gilmore, and George Pataki. The typical Trump voter, according to David Pakman, who I watch, by the way, quite often, and he's very articulate and he knows his stuff. If you want to look up any of his videos, I would definitely suggest you do so. First, the typical Trump voter. Those who are genuinely bad people and enjoy seeing others suffer, such as racists, xenophobes, sexists, and homophobes, etc. The second type is a combination of ignorant and or selfish people. Ignorant people, people who don't realize that Trump will not help you. Selfish people, people who think Trump will help them specifically. The third type are those who are not ignorant or selfish. They understand exactly who Trump is and voted for him anyway. Fourth, those who believe Trump will be better for the country than Hillary Clinton because they just don't understand or care what Trump policies are and choose to ignore his extreme lack of qualifications. Last but not least, those who do not really follow politics but heard the propaganda of crooked Hillary, emails, Benghazi, etc., who voted for Trump not to support him, but believed the lies about Hillary, but did not look at what was said about Hillary and realized it could apply more so to Trump. David also mentioned that when you ask a Trump voter why they voted for Trump, they don't name policies. They say he tells it like it is. He's not afraid of offending people. He cuts to the chase. Not a standard politician. Blah, blah, blah. Or maybe I should say blah, blah, blah. You know, it's just, you know, they don't really care. You know. Anyway, Carl Cannon's 5 Tribes of the American Voter. The resistance, of which I consider myself a part of, is made up of 26% of the American voters. The Trump base, 12%. Traditional Republicans, 14%. The detached, 24%. Independent voters, also 24%. If you go online and look up the title Carl Cannon's The 5 Tribes of the American Voter, Mr. Cannon goes into a little bit more detail than I did. Now, this next segment is a segment that I wanted to discuss because I cannot understand why anyone would vote for Republicans, except for people who enjoy being lied to. They vote against their own very financial interests, their own healthcare interests, and their own safety interests. Republicans say that raising the minimum wage would hurt job creation. And after 2 years of being completely in charge of the government, they still haven't created one jobs bill, and yet kept asking President Obama for 8 years, where are the jobs? Even though under Obama's administration, there were 63 straight months of decreased unemployment, of which Trump now enjoys. Also during Obama's administration, they claimed that the debt and deficit was out of control, but once they came into power, complete power of the government, they gave the wealthiest a permanent tax cut, which raised the debt and deficit during Republicans' control and Trump's administration. Now, Mitch McConnell wants to cut Medicaid and Medicare and Social Security to pay for it, to pay for the tax cut, to be specific. Republicans continue to demonize the Affordable Care Act, aka Obamacare, and tried to repeal it over 60 times. Then during the 2018 midterm election season, they told voters that they were going to protect pre-existing conditions after they came up with a ridiculous health care bill, which was a joke in 2017, all the while suing the U.S. government to end pre-existing conditions. People vote for Republicans. Yeah, okay. Darrell Issa claimed in 2011, when he became the head of the House Oversight Committee, President Obama and his administration was the most corrupt in history. And after 4 years of having that position, he did not find one thing on Obama or his administration that was corrupt. Now, either Issa was an inept and incompetent fool or a lying one. Now, only after 2 years, so many in Trump's administration have either been indicted, pleaded guilty, or found guilty. And Trump himself is now an accused, unindicted co-conspirator. Republicans accuse President Obama and former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton of being corrupt, but continue to allow Donald Trump to remain in office. Who's really corrupt? They also accuse President Obama of practically being responsible for the deaths in Benghazi up until 2014 midterm elections. Then they switched the accusation to prevent Susan Rice from becoming Secretary of State because they wanted an empty seat in the Senate, John Kerry's seat. And after that, they moved on to blame Hillary Clinton for Benghazi to try and prevent her 2016 presidential win. But they never said one thing about the 4 Marines that were killed in Niger under Trump and their watch. The Republicans held 11 hearings involving Hillary Clinton's unsecured email, claiming it was a serious breach of national security, but continue to allow Donald Trump to use his unsecured phone, which allows China, Russia, or any other adversarial government to listen in on. And let's not forget Ivanka's unsecured email. Republican voters, politicians, and the NRA are extremely fanatical about the Second Amendment, but will play loosey-goosey with the First Amendment. They're either too ignorantly secure in the knowledge that the Second Amendment is safe without the First, or they are positive about the lies, opinions, and fantasies they use defending the Second Amendment being untouchable. Republicans say one thing, think another, and do something else. Who votes for these lying, corrupt Republican politicians? Lying, corrupt Republican voters, as well as the ignorant voters. So, that's my second video, and I hope you enjoyed it. But the reason why I wanted to talk about liars and bring the segment, this particular video about liars, because really the Republicans are. That is who and what they are. That is who and what they have been. And that is who and what they will always be. I don't know why people vote for these people. But the resistance needs to put a stop to it. And that is what my intentions to do with making these videos. And I'm looking forward to putting an end to the Republicans' existence. I know that goal is coming true, and it will eventually present itself. But until then, be sure to like, share, and subscribe to my channel, and leave your comments down at the bottom. Remember, making a difference starts with you. You're either the cause or the solution to a problem. Thank you.